Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Hi, everyone. Today I am speaking with, a pretty special person to me. I have to let you know that she is one of my best friends in the whole entire world. Her name is Salima Noon. She has her Master's of Arts degree in Sexual Health Education. She's very well known in British Columbia. She's been teaching sexual health, body science for over 20 years. And many people have her book called Talk Sex Today, which was released in September of 2016. Salima, I'm so happy that you are here and we can talk about sexual health and children and what we need to teach them.
Oh, this is so great, Tamara. Thanks for having me on.
You know, it's funny because a lot of people ask me how you and I met. And I can't remember how long ago. It was probably 20 years ago. And we met because I interviewed you when I used to work in television. And
that's right.
This is how friendships happen sometimes.
That's right. And then HomeSense in Port Coquitlam opened, and we were fast friends right. After our Saturday field trip.
That's right. So listen, this has been a strange year for a lot of people, really challenging, especially for teachers, educators, support workers, parents, students. It's been tough for sure.
Absolutely.
You are somebody who goes into schools and you teach body science. So I thought teachers usually teach kids about, sexual health. Can you maybe explain how that works in your line of work?
Sure. And teachers often do teach sexual health in their classroom, and they should. Throughout Canada and every province now, sexual health education is mandated for all students, kindergarten through grade 10-ish. But our challenge is that in Canada, sex education is inconsistent. Teachers are expected to teach the curriculum, but it's quite vague in terms of its learning objectives. And quite honestly, teachers don't always feel comfortable because they're not provided with things like up-to-date resources and good current training, and all that good stuff that you need to really bring the curriculum to life in the classroom. So while many teachers are comfortable and enjoy teaching it, many schools choose to either, instead of, or quite often complementary to, invite experts to come in and teach kids in an age-appropriate way, of course, about sexual health. So for me and my team, we are invited actually by parent advisory councils for the most part at elementary schools. We come in and do a parent workshop for them, and then we go in over a series of days and teach sexual health to kids.
Right. So I've been to one of your parent talks, and it's usually in the gym or the library. A bunch of parents come. You go through the curriculum you will be teaching them. I know that some parents have, they're really nervous about it. Other parents are like, hey, I'm glad someone's teaching this. I don't want it to be me because I don't know what I'm talking about. I never learned this properly when I was in school. But a lot of parents are worried that kids will be taught something that isn't appropriate for them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
How do we navigate that as parents? And what do you say to parents?
Well, I think it's really, really important that parents understand not only what their kids are going to learn in sexual health education, but the reasoning behind it. And I have to say that over the 20 plus years that I've been teaching, more and more parents are so supportive of what we're teaching because they know it's a safety issue. And those parents who have concerns, absolutely, we need to address those, which is why we always work with parents first before going into the classroom with kids. So I think it's all about helping parents understand that if we as reliable adults don't teach our kids about healthy bodies and healthy sexuality, they're going to learn from somewhere else. And so the idea is to get to them first with accurate information so that when they do hear things, whether that's on the playground or online or from a friend's older sibling, they won't just blindly believe it. Instead, they can think critically about what they're seeing and hearing. And most importantly, check it out with a reliable adult. I think a big part of bringing parents on board is helping them understand it as a safety and preventative issue. This information is going to prepare our kids to make smart decisions about their body growing up.
Okay, so give me an example of what a child in kindergarten would learn in one of your classes.
So, in the curriculum, sexual health education for the primary grade centers around abuse prevention, private parts on the body, technical terminology for body parts, what to do if someone goes on your body without your permission. And all of those things, of course, are very important and are part of our standard curriculum as well. We go above and beyond that because we really want to take a sex positive approach to sexual health education. We know that comprehensive sexual health education, so education that focuses not just on the possible harms or risks, but also focuses on the positive aspects of sexuality and sexual relationships, that's what really works. That's what delays young people's sexual debuts. That's what reduces risk taking activities. And that is why we're seeing a quite a marked reduction in our STI rates as well as our unplanned pregnancy rates here in BC. So, comprehensive sexuality education is where it's at, rather than problem focused or fear based education, which is what a lot of us got growing up, right? So,
Mhm.
beyond abuse prevention, we want to teach kids to celebrate their bodies. We want them to know exactly what their body parts are for. And we also want them to know um, that, this is how human reproduction happens. Babies do not grow in the tummy, they grow in the uterus. And although there are lots of different ways that people can become parents and how families are formed, babies usually are made by sexual intercourse. And this is how it happens. And the great thing is, Tamara, and this is a part that is so comforting for parents, especially of young children, is they just take it in stride. Little ones, there's no silliness, there's no giggling. They're just really excited about being body scientists. So, in any given classroom, I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, as I was wrapping up teaching for the school year, I was in the kindergarten class. I had just explained how babies are usually made through sex. And as I always do, I said, does anyone have any questions so far? And one of the students said, no, not about that, but what color is the atmosphere? you know
Exactly.
or
Yeah.
or we had just finished talking about how the baby is in a special water bag for protection within the uterus. So again, we had question time, and one of the students asked, so after a baby is born, does it need to stay in the hospital for a few days to dry out a little bit? So those are the things they're wondering about, and they're not, and
It
understandably, parents are concerned that kids are going to be obsessed with what sex is and they're going to want to go out and try to do it. It's not like that at all because that's not relevant to them. That's not on their radar. That's not interesting to them as other things are.
I remember you telling me before that uh, kids only take in or absorb what they're ready to. So explain what that means.
So we know that kids will um, take in exactly like you said what they're ready for. Anything they're not ready for or isn't interesting or on their radar will just go right over their head. And we need to appreciate that kids are capable of understanding a lot more than we think they might. We also need to remember that kids don't need maybe as much information as we might think, like when we're answering their questions. I'll give you a quick example of that. And I often tell parents this story. I do have permission from Kate to share it. When Chris and I got married, the girls were very young, 7 and 9, I believe. And so, in the chaos of an extended family brunch the day after the wedding, our youngest one, Kate, said, Slima, I got a question I need to ask you. And I knew it was a big one because typically she would just blurt it out. But this time she wanted to talk to me privately. So when I had a minute, I pulled her aside and I said, what were you wondering, Kate? And she said, well, yeah, I was just wondering, now that you guys are married, are you going to sex my daddy? And to be honest, I can't remember exactly what I said. Probably something about how when people are married and want to show love and affection and experience pleasure together, sometimes that's what they do. So, yes. I said, do you have any other questions, Kate? And she thought about it. And she goes, yeah, I was wondering one more thing. So I'm bracing myself for the next one. And she said, do we have to return our dresses or can we keep them? because she saw the
Yeah.
groomsmen returning their tuxes.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
again, something else that parents can be comforted by, they will take in and their questions will reflect exactly what they're ready for. And it's usually just a few sentences that will be enough for them. And then they're on to something else,
Mm.
right? But
Mm.
questions are just a wonderful opportunity for parents to give little snippets of information starting at a young age, because that normalizes the conversation in their home. And it sends a really powerful and positive message to kids that, yeah, we want you to come to us with your questions. This is something we want to talk to you about. We may not always have the answers, but we're going to give it our best.
Hmm. I mean, it's hard for some parents to have these conversations because many of us never had these conversations when we were growing up.
I
So
sure didn't.
things were, embarrassing or, humorous, or we talked about it with friends on the playground, if you will, but never to parents, like never. I had to read about what a period was in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. I didn't get a conversation at home or at school that I can remember. So I have noticed that it's very different with my children, with my friends' children, because it is more open. Now, what about when we're having, let's talk about being inclusive and, how are we talking to kids about LGBTQ2 plus? How are we talking about inclusive sex ed when it comes to students with disabilities? This is vast, right? Like this is a huge part of a human experience, our sexual health, our
sure
body
is.
science. And it's something that a lot of us are so uncomfortable talking about. So I know that's a big question I just asked you, but tell me how things have changed for you in the last 20 years teaching this even.
Yeah, that's a great question, Tamara. And actually, I just want to start by sharing some good news around that. There was a really interesting study done recently by CCAN, which is the Sex Information and Education Council of Canada. And what they found when they interviewed thousands of parents across Canada as well as youth is that, first of all, parents wanted their kids to have comprehensive sex education starting at an early age, delivered by a skilled professional. And they even wanted their kids to learn from a young age around the more sensitive topics like pleasure and gender identity. So that's one piece of good news. And when they interviewed students, students wanted this as well. They valued this information as part of their education, and they brought up concerns about how inclusive their sex education was or wasn't. Specifically, they mentioned that they wanted to make sure that sex education was inclusive when it comes to sexual attraction, gender identity, and for youth with disabilities. So that is something that I and my team have put a lot of attention to in the last few years. And when people ask me, yes, what I'm teaching has changed a lot in the last 20 years, not so much for the little ones. I mean, puberty changes are still puberty changes, right? But more when it comes to the language we use. So we no longer say things like, this is a girl's body, this is a boy's body. Instead, we say, this is a body with a uterus and a vagina. This is a body with a penis and testicles. We no longer say a pregnant woman. We say a person who is pregnant. We no longer say girls get periods and boys get wet dreams. So these little changes in our language really means a lot. And again, sends a really positive message that, we want all kids, all students to feel heard and to feel included in this. When it comes to being inclusive to kids who have varying disabilities, whether they be physical disabilities or developmental disabilities, this is a little bit tougher because we can do whatever we can in the time that we're in the classroom. But now it comes down to making sure that people in these kids' lives, parents, other trusted adults in their life, educational assistants, caregivers, they are provided with the support and the resources they need. And so luckily I have colleagues who specialize in teaching sexual health to youth with disabilities and supporting parents to do that. But every child has different needs when it comes to learning, right? And different ways of absorbing the information. And this becomes especially important when kids get to puberty age, because regardless of your developmental stage, your body is going to change. And it's important for all kids and all bodies to really feel they know what to expect, and so that puberty isn't a shocking or a scary time for them. So when it comes to young children, what we teach hasn't changed much, and the questions they're asking hasn't changed much. You know, the other day a grade 3 student asked me, "Can pregnant people wear high heels?" You know, this is what they want to know.
Yeah, you think
right?
there's going to be some like earth-shattering question that no one's going to be able to answer. It's not that.
No, no. And even, you know, we are talking more in our efforts to be more inclusive. We're talking more about gender and how, you know, someone can be assigned a certain sex at birth, but as they grow up, it turns out that's not really who they are. They may be assigned female at birth, but as they grow up, they realize in their heart they feel like a boy or not a boy or somewhere in between, or, you know, anywhere along that wonderful spectrum we know um, gender is on now. So we have been teaching about gender more, but I want parents to understand that kids' questions don't center around those issues. They still want to know, does it hurt to have a baby? Or how does a baby breathe when it's in the uterus? Those kinds of
Mm.
things, right? Now, when it comes to older kids, of course, because of what they're exposed to, especially when it comes to media, that's changed in the past 20 years. When I started teaching, social media wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
So, in
because you
terms
teach
of,
about social media and social media safety also. This is so I guess I should mention that you don't just you and your team are not going to schools and just teaching about sex or sexual health. You're also teaching about healthy relationships.
yeah, general
Um,
empowerment.
exactly, right? But why Salima is I mean, I know the answer to this. Why is that important to start teaching at such a young age? Why can't we start teaching kids about sex when they're, say, 15 and, you know, social media and that? I know the answer, but
Well,
I
there's a
want to
few
hear it from
reasons.
you.
Well, first of
Yeah.
all, if we try to start when they're 15, we've missed our chance. There is no way they're going to open up and let us in, especially when it comes to very personal and private topics, because they've long got the message that for whatever reason, even if it's unintentional, we don't want to talk, or they don't need the information, or don't deserve the information. So, we as reliable adults in kids' lives need to really position ourselves early on as their number one source of sexual health information. We need to let them know that, you know, for example, when they're online and they come across something that they know they shouldn't be looking at because it's meant for adults, they can come talk to us about it and they won't be in trouble, so that we can help them make sense of what they saw. But we also don't know when our kids are first going to be exposed to, for example, what sex is, right? In a perfect world, we wouldn't have to worry about that till the intermediate years, let's say. But kids at earlier and earlier ages are exposed to it. And kids are being sexualized at earlier and earlier ages. So, you know, while we can and should put reasonable guidelines and boundaries around what our kids are consuming from a young age, we can't control everything. But we can be proactive and make sure our kids have the information they need to make sense of what's in front of them.
What are students asking? What are their biggest concerns these days?
Depends on the grade. You know, I can tell you that kids in grade 4 through 7 have lots of questions about what they're seeing online. They want to know if what they saw in that YouTube video is true or not. They want to know if their body is normal when they compare themselves to their friends or to other images in the media. You know, these body image issues and just confidence issues, we know are becoming a challenge for kids at earlier and earlier ages, simply because of what they're exposed to, right? And the
Mm.
comparison game is fierce online. So we need to be addressing that ahead of time. And we also need to be teaching good habits ahead of time, so that when the time comes, we've got these healthy agreements in place and can increase the chances that our kids' time spent online is going to be really positive.
Mm. What about kids in high school? What are you hearing from students in high school, older grades?
You know, we spend most of our time at the elementary and middle school levels,
Mm.
but Kids in high school have lots of questions about relationships. They have lots of questions about gender identity and who they are. They have questions about still the mechanics of sex, what can happen, what can't happen, how to keep themselves safe. But what I'm finding more and more is they're more concerned about the more emotional and social aspects of sexuality. So we can't be going into grade 9 and 10 classrooms and talking about the urethra. Enough of that.
Right.
We need to be talking about consent. And what do you do if you're in a relationship and you really, really, really care about something and someone rather, and things are progressing, but you may not be on the same page when it comes to what you want to do sexually? How do you express your boundaries and at the same time make sure that person knows that you do care about them and want to be in a relationship with them? And what do you do if you're having these sexual feelings but don't feel like you want to be in a relationship? What about hooking up? What about one night stands? Are they so bad? So
well, I needed
dynamics.
you when I was in high school. I really needed you.
I needed me when I was in high school, for sure. But
yeah,
when we're teaching high school students, we need to be very careful that we're not imposing our own values and what we were taught on them, right? Because while for some people, any kind of sexual activity should happen in the context of a committed monogamous relationship, whether that lasts for a month or 3 years, that's not everyone's truth. And so what if high school students are experimenting sexually and they are using the precautions they need, they feel informed, they feel good about their decisions, those important consent conversations are happening. Is that so wrong? And is that for us to decide? So when I'm with high school students especially, and with kids of all ages, I want to make sure that I can provide the information they need in a way that is relevant and engaging to them. And then they need to make their decisions with the help of other reliable adults in their life, right? And not just decisions that will keep them healthy and safe, but also ones that they're going to feel really good about.
Do you think that by us, educating our our kids, our youth about things like, healthy relationships, inclusive, sex education, consent, it can only make for a better world moving forward, can't it?
It is already.
Yeah.
It is. We know that in countries where comprehensive sexual health education is part of their school life, it is delaying their sexual activity. And we also know that it's decreasing the riskier behaviors that we used to see. And some of this is happening in Canada, a lot of it in BC. We just need more of it because what our kids are getting in school is still kind of hit and miss, So, I think we can't underestimate the role of parents either, because more and more parents are feeling empowered to have these important conversations early, right? And we can teach consent from day one. We can teach toddlers consent when we allow them to choose who changes their diaper, when we allow them to choose if they want their diaper changed standing up or lying down, when we don't force them to give kisses and hugs before our guests leave. So these are just building blocks for us to teach our kids that they have agency, that they say who goes on their body and who does not. And that will just make it so much easier for them to express their boundaries growing up. But again, not all of us were taught this, right?
Yeah.
We were raised in an era where, our parents were the boss. And it was a polite thing to do to walk around the room before you went off to bed and give every guest a kiss and a hug goodnight.
Yes. 100%.
But
I've never made my kids do that because it's, it was a real eye opener for me as a parent to know that and think about it and recall how I felt as a young girl doing that. Not that my parents were bad for doing it. It's just, that's what they were taught also, right? Like it goes back to that when we know better, we do better.
Exactly.
I want to talk, Salima, about, we like to give back and say thank you to our guests for spending time with us. And one of the ways that we do that is we ask our guests to choose a Canadian nonprofit that's important to them. You chose Backpack Buddies. It's an organization in BC that helps vulnerable children who are facing food security here. We will be giving them $500 on your behalf. And I just wanted to, thank you for choosing them. And I know you're a big fan of their work.
I sure am. And thank you so much. This really means a lot, especially in these pandemic times. Kids need food, especially on the weekends, especially during the summer when school's not in session. So I just so appreciate your generosity.
Oh, well, it's our pleasure, and we appreciate your time. So, just as we're wrapping things up here, let's talk about what parents can do. Our kids have access to YouTube, online, ads pop up all the time, all that sort of stuff. How do parents, how do we talk to our kids about porn that they might see? Mm-hmm. And what advice do you have to parents who want to talk to their kids about sex but don't know how? Mm-hmm. They don't know what to do.
I know. It's not easy, again, because we didn't grow up with it from our parents, right? I think the best piece of advice I can give to parents is to just start talking. Take a deep breath and just try, If there's something you want to talk to your kids about, think about it ahead of time and don't plan for a 2-hour conversation. Plan for a 2-minute conversation and use resources that are available to you. One of my favorite websites is amaze.org. It's a collection of 2 to 3 minute animated videos. Your kids know about it. Mm-hmm. And, watch a few videos together, have a good laugh, and at the same time, allow that message to be sent to your kids from someone other than you, right? You get to be the rock star because you showed the fun video, but use resources that are available to you. Have friends and family members that your kids know and trust reinforce your messages. I know my sister played a big role when my stepdaughters were young, just kind of saying the same things I wanted to say or did say, but just in a slightly different way. It helped the message land, right? And then use opportunities when they come up naturally. Again, a 2-minute conversation is valuable. So grab a question that came up earlier that day and talk about it while you're walking the dog. Share a relevant social media post. Text them a TikTok video and say, thought you might be interested in this. So again, it doesn't always have to be a drawn out conversation or a long face-to-face interaction. Just little snippets are so valuable.
Not a big family meeting where you sit down in the living room and you're going to talk about the birds and the bees.
Oh, I love family meetings too. They have a place, okay? But it doesn't always have to be like that. Just take a deep breath and it goes a long way. Parents have told me that when they just are honest and vulnerable and say, look, I want to talk to you about this, but I'm feeling really nervous because I don't really know how to word it properly, but I'm just going to go for it because it's important and just be patient with me. They appreciate that.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not perfect. We don't expect parents to have a slick set of answers or a perfect way to say something, but just having the courage to start the conversation is such a positive message to our kids that we want to be the ones. We want to talk to them and they can come to us without getting in trouble or being judged.
Okay, I could talk to you, as you know, for hours and hours and hours about this.
Likewise, there's so
I know
much.
It's because there's so much to talk about. There really is. But I want everyone to know that we're wrapping up here. You have a book. It's called Talk Sex Today. It's a great book. It's a great resource for parents. I mean, everything that we talked about, plus a million other things, are in here, including some notes. Okay, before we leave, after I tell everybody what your website is, I want you to give me a couple of, do you have a cute story you can tell me? Okay, you think of a cute story. And so we have Salima's book. Her website is salimanoon.com, and you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Salima Noon Educators on Instagram.
That's right.
And also, there's a great online course that Salima has now for it's for kids, students that preteens. Yeah. My kids are doing it right now. It's great. It's fun. It's it opens up all kinds of conversations. It's really, truly wonderful. So go to salimanoon.com for that. Okay, do you have a story you can tell us? Something?
Well, I've got a
Cute one?
million, but I think
I
I can
know.
pick one.
Pick one.
Just really quick, Tamara, I want parents to know that there are lots of free resources on my website. So I encourage them to just go into the helpful handouts and links section, where I've listed lots of my favorite books and websites and some of my own one-page resources for parents. In terms of a fun story, what I love about my work is that every age group I teach has a different personality. The kindergarten and grade ones are just so excited to be body scientists and they're just really into the whole experience. The grade 2s and 3s are kind of giggly because they've heard some of this stuff and they don't really know how to react. And the grade 4s and 5s are literally on the verge of barfing as I'm teaching. One of the most common questions I get from grade 4s and 5s is, why would you do this job? They just don't get it. Yet they're super curious and have great questions. So recently I was in a grade 5 class and one of the students approached me after and said, Salima, do I have to know all this gross stuff if I just want to be a bachelor when I grow up? So I said, yes, absolutely. Especially if you want to be a bachelor, you need to know this information. And then, then they come back around in grade 6 and 7 and they realize, whoa, okay, I got a lot coming at me right now. And I've got lots of questions. So, it's lots of fun. They are so curious. They ask so many questions that are not only entertaining, but so worthy of answers. And it makes me so happy that the large majority of parents, really the vast majority of parents, are so supportive and are just using this opportunity to really empower their kids and to make sure they have the information they need to stay safe and healthy. So we're doing great. We just need to make sure that all kids get this information.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Salima. So great.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening to another episode of TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Be sure to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for another conversation. You can also check out our website, telus.com/podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TELUS Talks.